Fan frustration is still evident, and on Saturday, President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak opened up at day one of the winter warm-up to discuss the team, its future, plus his own personal future. We'll talk about all of it today on Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. Follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube if you would like a visual aspect of the show. We're available there as well. Make sure you like, subscribe. Don't be afraid to comment either. Interact with us on our YouTube page. Hit the notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode being brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. So day one of the winter warm-up was on Saturday at Ballpark Village and Busch Stadium. It was a frigid day in St. Louis, although it's gotten even colder on Sunday, where we're talking negative temperatures today. But lots of folks bundled up, but a solid crowd throughout. I was curious if there was going to be any sort of drop-off in attendance because of how horrendous last season was in 2023, but that didn't really happen. It seemed like everybody was in a pretty good mood about things. Fans not exactly thrilled with every move that has been made so far this offseason. I've had a chance to talk to a number of different fans over the last couple of days, and it was a lot of the same thing when it comes to the Cardinals, the way guys and gals were feeling about things. It was basically they liked the Sonny Gray signing, but we're a little bit underwhelmed by the Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn signings. They wanted more. Fans understood why Tyler O'Neill and Richie Palacios were traded, but feel as if the Cardinals could have or should have gotten more in return for them. I think the Tyler O'Neill trade bothers people a little bit more than the Palacios trade, because many of us, when we look at what Tyler O'Neill is, we still see the guy from 2021. Who was getting MVP votes and was showing you the power, the defense, the speed. I mean, he had the total package going on that year. We see that when we look at him, rather than the guy that couldn't stay on the field the past couple of seasons and just genuinely didn't look all that excited to be in a Cardinals uniform last year, in my opinion. Believe me, I understand the frustration that fans are feeling. I'm right there with you. As a fan myself, you know this if you listen to this podcast or watch this. I hated the Lance Lynn signing and was very much underwhelmed by the Gibson signing at first. When my first reaction to both of them was like, I wanted them, like you, to be aggressive and get Sonny Gray and then another top arm, a guy like a Blake Snell. Bring Jordan Montgomery back. Yamamoto was still a dream, right? Although we saw the numbers get a little wild with him, so you can understand why that became fantasy rather than something that could become a reality. The Cardinals fans see over 3 million fans pouring into Busch Stadium each year at the gate, and when the team fails on the field like it did last season, they want drastic measures taken so that it doesn't happen again. And when those changes are Sonny Gray, and 34 years old, by the way, and then two guys who gave up a lot of runs and a lot of hits and a lot of home runs last year and are in their late 30s, the fans are kind of left scratching their head. They're like, what? This is what we're doing? This is where we're going with this? They want to know why more wasn't done. Why are the star players that they've heard so much about this offseason, guys we've talked about a lot here on this show, guys like Snell and Montgomery and Yamamoto and so many others, why they aren't signing in St. Louis and going at other places while the Cardinals are signing 30-something guys of the baseball world and not superstars. That's what they want to know why. They want to know why that's not happening. Why are we trading known commodities for guys most people have never heard of. Unless you do a deep dive into things, you don't know who these guys are that Tyler O'Neill got in return from the Boston Red Sox. You've never heard of them. So why did we take a guy like Richie Palacios, who played with a lot of energy and a lot of spirit last year on a team that was really, really bad, but people loved what he brought to the field and brought to the ballpark each day? Why are we flipping him for another 30-something reliever coming off elbow surgery? These are the questions people were asking me throughout this entire weekend. And they're all valid questions and valid concerns. And John Mozeliak tried to answer some of those questions to an extent on Saturday at the winter warm-up. I ended up bringing my mom this year, so I wasn't technically there as a media member, so I wasn't in the media press conferences that he was doing, but I was there in the first couple of rows during his Q&A session that he had on Saturday morning because I wanted to hear what the crowd was like for him. I was curious what the reaction was going to be. I wanted to know what his thoughts were now that a major chunk of this offseason has passed. First and foremost, he was not booed. I can tell you that much. He did not get booed, which was pleasant. I was a little bit worried about him. Here's a picture I took from where I was sitting. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that. But he did not get booed like he did during Adam Wainwright's ceremony at Busch Stadium. But it wasn't exactly a rousing round of applause either. Maybe the fans were still cold and still warming up in general because like Sonny Gray came on the stage before Mo took the stage, and it was a pretty reserved crowd as far as cheering goes then too. I don't know if it was still too early in the morning. People weren't quite awake yet. Maybe the beer hadn't gotten flowing yet in some people. Some of the fans might have been off doing like the tours of Busch Stadium or visiting some of those memorabilia stations. There's a lot to see at the winter warm-up, and I don't know. Maybe these are excuses of why the crowd wasn't like cheering wildly at 11:30 in the morning, but they definitely didn't boo him, so that was good. And after some normal interview questions, they opened up the floor to a couple of fans in the crowd to ask some questions. Unfortunately, I was not one of those that was selected, but one fan asked about Steven Matz's offseason and his health, which Mo addressed, saying that he's been throwing all off season. They're trying some different things in order to try to keep him as healthy as they can this year. And I know we give Steven Matz a hard time because of the injuries. Mostly it's not because he's a bad person or something. Last year he had a really rough start to the year after having a fantastic spring training, had a really rough start to the year, which didn't help the skepticism. But you've got to admit that after he was removed from the rotation, goes to the bullpen for a bit, came back to the rotation, Steven Matz was pretty darn good last year. After April and May, Matz had a record of 0-6 with an ERA of 5.60. The team was 2-9 in his 11 appearances. 10 of those were starts. Just nasty stuff. And he ends up going to the bullpen to try to get things figured out. And things did get better. The team still stunk. They went 0-7 during that stretch that Matz was in the bullpen. But he makes 8 appearances, has an ERA of 2.81, comes back to the rotation, and then from July 9th through August the 12th, he makes 7 starts. He goes 4-0 with an ERA of 1.86. The team goes 6-1 in those starts. So everything's looking good. Everybody's like, all right, here we go, Steven Matz. And then injury, another injury. Sadly, he gets that lat strain, and it ends his season, and it's all over. Overall, in the 15 appearances that Matz made from the stretch from returning from the rotation, he leaves the rotation, goes to the bullpen. So the stretch from the bullpen time and then coming back to the rotation, Matz goes 4-1, the ERA at 2.14. His FIP was 2.80. Opponents hit just 200 off him. He was good. Now, do we trust this moving forward? I understand why you wouldn't, considering the injury history that he's had. But that's where guys like Zach Thompson and Matthew Liberatore come into play. It's one of the reasons why they got guys for the rotation this year, like Lance Lynn, like Kyle Gibson, who are known commodities, who can answer the bell 30 times a year. That's the idea of it, where they aren't searching for people to fill in innings because of injuries and stuff. They wanted some guys that maybe not the greatest pitchers, but still good enough and will be there each and every day when their name is called to take the mound. That was the idea behind this. So that's how the questioning started. The next one was actually about whether the Cardinals did enough to improve on last year's team to make the playoffs, which is a question that many of us are like, did they? did they do well? I don't know if they did or not. But Mo had some interesting comments. I'll say that much about what went on this offseason and how he feels the team looks moving forward. So I'll share those with you next on Locked On Cardinals. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all of the sports, the music, the comedy, and theater events that are available near you. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat that you can check out in case you're a little worried. Like, well, I'm not sure how this is going to look. They've got their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets and eliminates that, so that you have all the confidence in the world that you're getting the seats to the events that you want to go to. Now, this week, my mom and I went to the Blues game. Day of the game, we're looking up tickets for the game against the Rangers. She ends up going through the website, was spotting them in the section that we were interested in, and they were going for like $200, and some were even more than that a piece, by the way. I'm not talking about combined. We're talking about each ticket was like $200 or more. So what did I do? Pulled up my phone, went to the Gametime app, same section, same game against the Rangers, few rows closer, actually. And guess what? Things were cheaper. $60 per ticket cheaper. So boom, we take them. Hit purchase. Tickets get sent directly to my phone and put them in my Apple Wallet. And we breezed right through the gates at Enterprise Center, and we saw Kyrie get the hat trick. We saw Bennington look amazing. I got to try Shake Shack for the first time. Incredible. Bought some stuff at the team store. We just had an absolute blast. It was it's a lot of fun when the team wins, right? But it was just so simple with the Gametime app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Pardon me with the coughing. Still trying to get over the cold here. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On. Plus, we've got our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Let me get a little swig of the beverage here real quick. Hello. Okay, here we go. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. You can leave comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter anytime you want. Feedback always welcome and encouraged. So back to John Mozeliak when he was asked whether or not the acquisitions that he's made this offseason were enough to add 15 to 20 wins to make the playoffs this year. I'm dying over here. Something a lot of fans believe that the Cardinals haven't done. They're not so much sold on the new acquisitions and whether or not they're going to be all that much better. And here's what Mo had to say about that in response. Why do we think we're going to be better this year than we were last year? Well, a couple of things come to mind. I think when you look straight across the board, starting pitching, relief pitching, everyday club, we just did not play very well. The fact is, odds makers thought we were going to be better than we were, right? So something happened in all of this. And here's the part that I really appreciated Mo's honesty, because, he could give you the Mo answer that, we've come accustomed to over the years. But instead, he was very honest here. He said, we got away from doing the little things. I learned a long time ago, if you don't do the little things, you're never going to do big things. We sort of got away from that last year. We've got to get back to that. So this offseason, we've taken a look in the mirror. We've done a lot of self-evaluation on how we can get back to that. That's really what drives our spring training. And to admit that, I think is very, very important. For years, the front office, the team, the fan base, all of us have been able to stand a little taller. We were able to, stick our chests out a little bit more and relish the fact that, hey, we're the Cardinals, all right? We're the Cardinals. We're a bit smug and a bit spoiled. Deservedly so. Not saying we shouldn't be, considering the the support that the fan base shows the team each and every year. But for so long now, we're like, we're the Cardinals, we do things better than you do. That's how we feel about things. We are the best fans in baseball. We are baseball heaven. We're the cream of the crop in the NL Central. We're part of the elite in the National League and in Major League Baseball. That's how we feel. And when the process that has, you can complain about championships and all the exits in the playoffs in the last couple of years, and you can point those out and say these are failures, and that's fine. But the easy thing to do is to say, well, hey, it's 1 year, no big deal. We're going to continue doing things the way we do them because they've worked for so long. That's the easy thing to do. And I don't think that's what this team has done now. Some people argue with me about it. They're like, nope, same old stuff. They're just doing the same stuff. But I have a tough time agreeing with that. Mo spoke about this on Saturday, saying there was probably a little bit of arrogance when referring to the franchise's long tenure of success before last year. He said, when you do something as long as I've done it, approaching it in that way with arrogance is not helpful. You have to have a little sense of humility on what can happen and realize that it's hard to keep everyone happy. We're still trying to be true to how we make decisions and why we make decisions, but we have decided to tinker a little bit with how we make decisions because clearly how we did it last year didn't work. But on a personal level, it's about understanding that mistakes do happen. So you can argue and have every right to. You can argue that the changes they've made aren't big enough moves as far as the roster. Okay, I can sit here and I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your butt and try to make you drink the Mozeliak Kool-Aid with the changes that they've made. I can tell you the reasons why I think they're good, why I think some of them are bad, but you have to admit that they've at least made a bunch of changes in the organization since last year. With the coaching personnel, obviously Yachty going to be back, being a big piece of what they've changed this year. They've added Chaim Bloom, who as an advisor, that's a huge deal. They've jettisoned guys from the old regime, out with the old and with some new guys, Jack Flaherty, Dakota Hudson, Juan Yepes, Tyler O'Neill, Genesis Cabrera, Jake Woodford, Andrew Kisner. I'm not saying there were things that were wrong with those players, but they're moving on. They're moving on. They probably stuck to them one more year too long. That's ends up giving you 91 losses. And they brought in some new names and faces, some of them more well-known than others. And I think that's part of the problem too, is some of the guys they went out and got, fans just aren't all that familiar with them yet. But they've done a lot to try to turn this ship around immediately. This isn't a teardown of the entire organization and a rebuild where they're going to be a top 5 draft pick type of organization for the next few years. That's how some teams have had to turn things around. They had to tear it all down. The Cardinals aren't doing that. And they're also not only another thing that they're changing, which is a big deal, is it's not just what's happening on the field and what they're doing as far as ways to get wins, hitting, fielding, all that stuff. It's not just that, but they're also changing things in the clubhouse. The culture is something that also needed to be addressed. And I think we can all admit that last year's team, it just didn't feel like a cohesive unit at any time. It just didn't feel like a Cardinal team that we're used to. And I know losing is obviously a big part of that, but the fundamentals, the fielding, the base running, the pitching, the execution of the small things in this wonderful game that if you don't do them right, you lose a lot. It was just lacking in so many ways last year, which was quite upsetting for Cardinal fans who pay attention to those things. We're not just there to see your home run numbers. We know about what it takes to lay the bunt down and to make sacrifice plays and to hustle to save a run or to be safe at first base on a double play ball or sliding into second. All of these little things Cardinal fans are very good at paying attention to. But a lot of that stuff was lacking last year. It was a breeding ground for failure and disappointment, almost from Jump Street when they got clobbered by the Braves in April. It really kind of started there. I think the Toronto series, everybody was like, we'll be fine. And then the Braves came to town and just kicked the hell out of them. And the team was embarrassed, and a lot of friction began right then and there. And I said it last year during the season that I hadn't seen a Cardinal team look just so out of whack since the final year of Mike Matheny as manager. I was there the night of his last game as manager. He got fired after the game, but it was just an ugly time, and it wasn't fun. Nobody was happy, and I think we can all at least acknowledge the fact that the organization as a whole is trying to make an effort to change the way things are done heading into 2024. It's not easy to just abruptly do all of this. And the Cardinals are trying to do something that isn't very easy to do, and that's change the way they do things and get immediate results from it next year. So we're going to talk more about this and what Mo said about his future. We'll do that next year on Locked On Cardinals. NFL Super Wildcard Weekend is in the process of happening, and you can get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is very easy to use. There are many different ways to bet. You can do the same game parlays. Those are live. Find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the parlay hub. They give you the most popular parlays that are out there, things that everybody else is betting on. Maybe some guys have more insight into what's going on in that game than you do. You can trust them and go look into that parlay hub and find one you like and place a bet. Texans crushed the Browns. Did not see that coming. I'm not saying I'm shocked that the Texans won. I'm saying that the way they won and how bad Joe Flacco looked. And the Browns D just never looked right against CJ Stroud, who was amazing. Like, they just got clobbered. Mahomes and the Chiefs, they take care of business at Arrowhead on a freezing night in Kansas City, dominating the Dolphins. You've got games today. You've got games on Monday. They had the blizzard in Buffalo, which moved the game from Sunday with the Steelers. That's going to be on Monday instead. The Steelers will be without TJ Watt. The Bills have gotten hot at the right time. Look like a pretty complete team. You've got Philadelphia, who, like the Chiefs, were struggling down the stretch. They're going to go to Tampa Bay to face Baker Mayfield and the Bucs on Monday night. So you should get in on these games. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So back to the culture of the St. Louis Cardinals clubhouse, which also needed some retooling after last year's just season. And you've heard Mo say this before, right? And he reiterated it again on Saturday, that one of the things that you liked most about the new starting pitchers, Sonny Gray, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, was that they wanted to be in St. Louis, right? And they're not coming to town simply for a paycheck. They appreciate, the tradition that the Cardinals offer, how long this franchise has been around, the consistency that this franchise has provided over the years. And I didn't get to there early enough, excuse me, to hear Kyle Gibson speak, but I got to see Sonny Gray's session on the main stage. He had his kids running around. I'm going to throw a picture up on YouTube of what it looked like from where I was sitting. Kids running around, waving at Fred Bird, just having the time of their lives, just being kids. And he brought up some of the same things that he did in the initial introductory press conference, that St. Louis, again, was where he wanted to be. He and his family wanted to be in St. Louis. They wanted to be a part of the Cardinals. He spoke glowingly about coming to town as a member of other teams during his career and how he was just really, really impressed by, the city, the fans, the stadium, the atmosphere, and how important all of that was to him and how he wanted to be a part of something like that. And one of the things that stood out to me during the session as well was how he can't wait to get together with the guys in spring training and how he's excited to be a part of the group that is going to try and reestablish what the Cardinals had lost after last year's disappointing season. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to look around the room at the winter warm-up and to read online comments and you see where the fan base they're very unhappy right now. They're not like, I'm not. Well, there are some that are saying that they don't want to go watch the Cardinals next year. They refuse to do it. That what they're doing is they're just spinning their wheels and they're just bringing in more retreads. And this isn't how you win a World Series championship. And you can argue that these people are right. You really can. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel that way, but when Gray was talking to the media yesterday, and I continue to fall in love with this dude. Here's what he had to say. This is an organization that is not content with losing, rebuilding, doing any of these things, trying to put the best product on the field for the fans and the organization to win year in and year out. I've heard the Cardinal way, the Cardinal way, the Cardinal way my whole career. And everyone's Cardinal way might have a little different meaning, but the guts of it and the foundation of it is still there. And the foundation of it is still very, very strong. It gets tweaked, right? But everything gets tweaked. Being able to put your own stamp on something is something I look forward to being able to do, but I'm not doing it by myself. I mean, Sonny Gray is coming here not only to do whatever he can do on the mound for the team and be the best pitcher he can possibly be, but he's eager to also change the mindset of how things are done around here and hopefully make them better. I read that he was excited at how Mo was open to his suggestions during discussions. Like after he had signed, they had talked on the phone a few times, and Mo was curious about how things were done in other places that he had been. And he was eager to learn more about these things and applying them to the way things are done in St. Louis to improve what is going on with the Cardinals. Now, will it be enough to get them back to a 90-win type of year? The ones that we're used to around St. Louis? Can we get back there quickly in 2024 and get back to a 90-win team? That remains to be seen. I have a positive thought process about these things, and I'm going to go ahead and believe that they have made the right moves to get there and that they are making the right moves culturally to get back to where they belong. But it remains to be seen. Now, we don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know how it's going to transition and translate onto the field, and we won't know until we get into spring training and until the regular season starts. As far as Mo's future goes, he did talk about that a little bit. Many of you know that his contract will be up in 2025. The hiring of Chaim Bloom has led to speculation that maybe this is setting up for Bloom to take over when Mo's deal is up. Mo did say this about his future and the Bloom hiring, saying, I think I'm starting my 17th season in the seat, so it's probably reasonable to think that having a different voice at some point would make a lot of sense. A lot of people are sort of jumping to conclusions with the Chaim hire, but I would say at the very least, it strengthens our bench. Where it leads to, we'll see. I feel pretty good about where the organization is, but there are also some things that are going to change over time. I want to make sure we're positioned in that solid way. Now, as far as stepping down from the everyday president of baseball operations duties after his deal expires, he was asked about that and said, I would imagine that's going to stay pretty true. That seems to be the path that they're going on, that after his deal is done, that he will step away from everyday duties. He'll probably still be involved in the organization in some way, shape, or form, but he won't be president of baseball operations anymore. Now, where the organization goes from here, obviously that's still up for debate. We're quite a ways away from that actually taking place, but you've got your GM, Michael Gersh. You've got Randy Flores, who's been promoted quickly through the organization. Now you've got Chaim Bloom coming on in an advisor role, but who knows if he'll get more involved as things move forward. Still a couple of years away, but you can see where, they're setting up for this. They're setting up for this for Mo's departure, and hopefully it'll be a smooth transition to whomever ends up taking over those duties when Mo is done. All right, we got to wrap things up today. Again, thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. And thank you for people who I saw at Winter Warm-Up stopping by, saying hi to me and saying they listen to this podcast. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the people who are working at Winter Warm-Up this weekend. Everybody's so polite considering that we're all popsicles out there freezing. Even the people who are like on the field at the stadium. I put up some videos of some of the things that we got to do. And even the ones who were outside the whole time were as nice as can be. So it was a fun experience. I plan on being back there tomorrow. So hopefully we'll bump into you If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans of baseball for a reason. I'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.